Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Alon Ferency. He is a creativity consultant, counselor, and a coach. Welcome to the show, Alon.
Thank you, Ajay. Pleasure to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are talking right now. We'll be talking about art as spiritual revolution. In this backdrop, we will have our conversation. But first, let us understand a bit about your journey, Elon, so that people know who they are listening to.
Yes, so my name is Alon Ferency. I'm here in Tennessee, United States. I grew up in Boston, near Boston, northeast of the United States. After college, I spent some time in West Africa in the Peace Corps, then worked in the music business in Los Angeles before entering seminary to study to become a rabbi. I've been living here in East Tennessee since 2010, working first as a pulpit rabbi, and then in the past 2 years, counseling directly to artists, helping them support their creative goals through spiritual practice, mindfulness, counsel, paradox, activity.
Right, right, Alon. So I want to understand. You talk about, artists as spiritual revolutionaries. So in that backdrop, how do you see this whole creativity thing and spiritual thing linked to one another?
That's a great question, because when I speak about art as spiritual revolution, I think at its essence, art can be a rejection of consumerism, among other things. We are creating not to mass produce, not to buy, not to purchase, not to sell necessarily, but to express. And I think that it's necessary that the greatest of art comes from someplace deep within us that is only ours to speak. And for me, that is an understanding of the divine, the soul, the spirit, what makes us greater than just the material. So to me, it's always a spiritual process, finding the painting, finding the music, finding the performance within us in a place that, if it's comfortable language for you, you might say that God, the divine, the almighty, the higher power places within us to be discovered, like an uncharted territory.
Right, right, Alon. So help us understand this a bit better. Means artists nowadays, they were already, uh, having those challenges of monetizing whatever they were creating. And now they are having this additional burden of, you know, this sort of a spiritual revolution. Then what about their bread and butter? Means do they have the right to be rich, or do they don't have the right to be rich? All through the history, they have always bore the brunt of not, of this, so almost like a poverty like situation. And now you are adding this whole burden of spirituality on them. How do they think of bread and butter and spirituality at the same time?
But I don't think I'm adding the burden of spirituality. I think it's been there all along. Maybe I'm giving words to it. I'll often say to my clients that once you make the art, I can't help you sell the art. But I do believe artists, I don't know that anyone merits to be rich. That's a good fortune. But we often underestimate how challenging it is to make art. And the work and lifestyle of an artist is not one of joy and frivolity, but one of hard work. I mean, I know of artists who spent their college and childbearing years in a van, traveling North America with their band, or scrubbing and working hard to learn paint or sculpture. So I think we do them a disservice to think of their work as easy, simple, or quick, and it requires a lot of investment from them, from their families, their time, their energy, their skill, their resources. So it is not unreasonable for them to be paid. I mean, if someone isn't paid, they can't continue the work they love. Right? If I were not paid for the work I love, I'd have to go back to find a job pouring coffee, which I'm quite good at making coffee. But what I love doing is supporting, counseling, and reaching out to artists as a spiritual mentor. And so, yeah, we live in a market economy, in general, politically, I'm not opposed to a market economy, and artists participate in that. I think the harder part is not letting that economy influence the kind of art you make. That one's art should be truly expressive of oneself rather than trying to imagine what the community, what the economy, what the market will bear, what will sell on Instagram.
Right, right. But Instagram is just part of this whole process. The whole bigger problem here is about the artificial intelligence now, and
Yeah.
a lot of you see. So how it is like, again, another burden on them. How do they keep their spirituality alive, creativity alive, and themselves alive amidst this new friend or enemy, whatever we are called artificial intelligence? How do you see this?
Well, I think artificial intelligence is amoral, which is to say not immoral, but of no moral standing. I think it's also possible in this particular case, I think I could make a very strong argument that AI doesn't have a soul and art needs a soul. Good art needs a soul. A lot of art is soulless, but art that endures, art of value has a soul and comes from soul. And I think that's where human arts will always beat AIs. AI is just a aggregation of a lot of words and experiences into an incredible large language model. I mean, I've used it to create descriptions for meditations I've created, to create course descriptions for things that I have in my mind, and it's a good first draft. But I don't feel like it ever captures the spirit of the person. It's very much a bell curve of experiences embedded into a code. So it can't have a soul. A soul indicates a unique perspective. Art of value, art of merit and long-term worth has a unique perspective that shouts out into the wilderness.
Right. Where do you come into the picture when in these artists' life? What is it that they come to you for? What is it that you help them with?
I I would say, to use the language of the old blues players, they're at a crossroads. They're at some substantial place in their career, maybe early, maybe in the middle, maybe late. They don't know which the next turn to make is. They don't know what the next painting, the next song, the next book to write is. They may be having a crisis of confidence. Even early in their career, they don't have aren't capable of understanding themselves as artists. Maybe they experience what we'd call imposter syndrome. Uh, Mid-career, maybe they lost their way. So they come to me and we rediscover what the passion was that got them on the road in the first place. And we use that to form a plan, a sense of, a vision of what comes next. And then there's a certain amount of waiting for the divine, the epiphany, the moment, and trying to catch it. We create opportunities for them to be ready, as Hemingway would have said. You can't predict luck, but you can be ready for it. So a lot of that, it might be meditation, long walks in the woods, playful practices, writing practices, study, reflecting, engaging in other arts, and gathering a lot of information into self so that the art can flourish. And supporting them, I think, quite candidly, just as a cheerleader, someone who loves them, wants the best for them, and does his best to appreciate their art and understand where they're coming from and why.
Right, Alon. So you talked about, you used this word called crossroads.
Yeah.
Uh, you meet them at the crossroad. How is it, being there at the crossroad yourself and helping them out, waiting for them? Is it a easy work or is it a difficult one?
It's both. It's easy in that it's the most wonderful work I've ever done and most soul satisfying to me because it combines all of the elements of my personal history from arts making as a young person, where I was a theater performer or in a band, to spiritual study, which I've been undergoing since I was 12 or 14, learning about self, learning about wisdom traditions, to play study, to understanding of how to play and engage and engender creativity. So it's easy in that it feeds, nurtures, and participates in the part of my soul that is most creative. Um, it's hard in that when you counsel anyone, they reveal to you of their deepest self if you're lucky. And those places are are dark and sad and scary and challenging, and you want the best for another person, but you don't control for them. You can't make them produce the art. You can't give it to them. You can only walk side by side, and if they let you, hold their hand. So you are of limited control. I don't know if I would describe that as scary as much as a matter of faith, a way of understanding self and being okay with what we can't do. But it is deeply joyful. I think at this point in my life, and I'll be 50 at the end of the year, at the end of this birth year, I would say that I'm happier and more fulfilled than I've ever been in my life. And that's pretty incredible.
Right. What about the artist? How do they feel fulfilled? When will they? What is their destination? How do they plan their destination? Because creativity is something, it's a journey. You continue. It's a practice. You continue to refine yourself. How do they fix something called a destination for themselves, success for themselves? Again, it is. Is it about money or is it about some other goal in life?
Yeah. I think a destination, I'll joke with them that you can pick your destination, you can pick your theology, you can pick your self understanding for at most a year. We're picking a destination for the immediate future, for where they want to go now. But that sense of self, that sense of what they like to achieve might change and transform over the course of their careers. So I don't want to be too fixed. I wouldn't want them to be too fixed on their goal and impression. My personal belief, and I think Rick Rubin would say this in his work as a music producer, is that the audience will follow the passion. Right? That the money, I have to believe this. I don't have data, I don't have proof, but I have to believe that when we are doing what we are called to do, what is most important and unique to each of us, that the money and resources will follow. That the world will embrace us and want us to succeed. So I
Right.
don't worry immediately about how to monetize, how to find the right manager, how to find the right gallery. They can worry about that eventually. But what matters is to be in the right place at the right time for the right self. And I think once you've discovered what truly moves you, the world will be moved along with you and the money will follow.
Right. You talked about, the audience will follow passion. Whose passion? The artist's passion or the audience's passion? The audience taste or passion can be very different than what the artist's passion is. Like you have on social media, you can create the best content, but the audience may want very different, something very entertaining, very light sort of stuff. So what should the artist do? Should they follow their passion or should they follow the audience's passion?
Well, they should never try to guess the audience's passion. I mean, that's the work of commerce, not art. You know, I mean, I think we used to joke in the music business that you can never go wrong underestimating the taste of the American consumer, but that's not the work I'm inviting people into. You can only know your passion and let the audience find that and discover it. Like, live in a world of so many billions of people that there have to be some number of people who understand, know, and experience and share your passion. So I tend not to worry about does it exist out there. But if you speak your truth, if you speak from a place of honesty and integrity, you'll find people who need that thing. I'm not inviting them to be swindlers or salespersons or pitchmen. I'm inviting them to be honest models of spiritual quest, to try to understand what moved them to do this thing in the first place, what lights them up, what gives them fire, and to share that fire with the world. I
Right.
can't predict what will sell. I mean, from one moment to the other, things that we never thought will sell, and then they don't.
Right, Alon. What about, artists looking at themselves uh, political revolutionaries? Is it their job to look at that part, or they should be away from? Today, see, everything can be politicized, and you
Right.
also stand the chance to be cancelled in that process.
Of course. Right. And I do work with some artists who have been canceled. I would say I would describe them not as political revolutionaries, but spiritual revolutionaries. This idea of refraining from as a kind of spiritual revolution, that we have the power to buy the newest car, the fanciest guitar, the newest espresso maker. And sometimes by doing less, by stepping back, by going for a walk or meditating or painting, we are making our own revolution. The world is, I think, both in my country and yours, so full of discord and division. And art has a deep capacity for healing. I wouldn't
Right.
expect or invite an artist to explicitly make political art. That tends to fail as art. But art that is made from a true sense of perspective, a desire to see a different reality in the world than the reality that exists, a better reality, has the power to heal societal wounds and fractures, has the power to invite people into new and empathetic ways of viewing each other and seeing each other better, which I think the world needs now more than ever, to see the other side of an argument, to see the other side of a society, to see the other side of experience in a way that is compassionate and multi perspective and allows us into the thoughts and mind of others. I think nothing does that, for example, better than stand up comedy, that you can experience other cultures through their stand up comics. I sometimes feel like I'm traveling the world if I listen to comics from other religions, faiths, ethnicities, cities, countries, that, that you can start to understand what makes them laugh, what makes them tick, what you all share in common, and then what the unique perspective is, what the differences are. Food and
Right.
comedy. Those are the two, I think, the best ways to travel without an airplane.
Right, Alan. Now, when we are talking about artists being spiritual, revolutionary, where does God come in? Because spiritualism, people understand, but God in different cultures, different parts of the world, they look at God differently than one another. How should spirituality, your artist spirituality, come onto that? That it brings people together rather than people look at, as part of something that may not gel with their sort of, vision or understanding of God. How should, is it a easy thing to do or a difficult thing to do, spiritual revolutionary in that sense?
In that sense, no. It is not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to be passionate and spiritual without being dogmatic. And at the same time being disciplined. I don't know if this is as common in your circles, but a lot of people talk about being spiritual but not religious. But often what they mean
Right.
is I don't want to have discipline. I don't want to have a practice. I don't want to do things regularly. I want to do things at my own pace, only at my time. That's that's not what I'm inviting them to either. But conceptualizing God can be such a personal experience, and we can take knowledge from scriptures, from sacred traditions, mine, yours, the other, and from Shakespeare, and from the Vedas, and from poetry, and from our own experience to grasp what is truly beyond us, what is above us and within us. And to quote the comedian Pete Holmes, who is himself quoting the tour manager for ACDC, that God is just the name of the mystery of the blanket we throw over mystery to give it shape. We use this word God. Right? It's just an easy to pronounce one syllable word to describe all that we can't know, all that precedes the Big Bang, all that made the art, all that inspired us to create, all that formulated nature, whether through evolution by natural selection or something we can't understand or we understand even less. So I don't have a dogmatic or particular image of God and religion for each person. I let them help them, I hope, discover for themselves what is their own faith, what is moving them. I think even atheists have their own kind of religion. They just call it nothing. Right? They are believers that there is nothing, but something comes out of nothing, and we all came out of something and nothing at the same time. And so, whatever precedes our ability to know, whatever transcends our awareness, I call God. I use that word, but I'm just using a word to describe something I can't understand. And I think religious figures or religious people often mistake the word for the thing. God is just a word, but what God is transcends words.
Absolutely. There is much to learn from you, Alon, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn more from you, about you, connect with you. What's the best way for them to do so?
So my website is eclecticcleric.com, and /consultations is a way to reach out to me. You can reach me at Rabbi, RABBI, at eclecticcleric.com, or on social media at Eclectic Cleric on most social media, such as Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm also on Inside Timer leading meditations. So just if you remember the
Wonderful.
two words eclectic and cleric, or my full name, you can always find me.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much,
much
Ajay.
indeed for joining us.
Thank you.